watching that game last night, what did you make of Melbourne? Because it was interesting in the press conference afterwards. Craig Bellamy was asked whether he's confident that he can see a way out of this, and he said he's not confident at all.
Well, they've lost 4 in a row, Melbourne, and they haven't been terrible. Look, sometimes you can look into it a little bit too much and think that the effort's not there. I don't think that there's no effort in Melbourne. That they're trying really hard. I just think they just need to reset a little bit. Look, they've had a whole heap of injuries, especially in their outside backs. You know, you look at their back five. You take Justin Olam out, and it's a totally different back five to when they started the season. No Pappenhausen, no Coates, Smith, and also Jennings. So, you know, you need to work together, especially in defence, in that area of the field on your edges. And there's just a lack of continuity out there at the moment, and they're not far off. I still believe that they can get it right. They just need to, get a few troops back. I think Coates is back shortly. Brandon Smith's back in a week or so they'll be okay.
How do you get them going forward? Your outside backs, because that's where they're lacking, as you said, the injuries to the outside backs. So if the outside backs aren't getting forward early in the tackle count, it puts pressure on the front rowers getting forward.
Yeah.
How do you get them going forward?
The game's a cycle, now more than ever. The game is a cycle, and a lot of it starts from kick returns. We just saw a clip there of Latrell Mitchell throwing a bullet pass 10 metres off his own line to Cody Walker, and then him hitting Alex Johnston. So you've got to be confident. You can't just throw it willy-nilly. So you've got to a
bit more ball movement on kick reception.
You've got to have the structure. You've got to have the accountability to get back into the position to start with. But it all starts there, and then you get your halves back there, which Munster and Hughes do that, and they need to take over. And that'll make it easier for their big men to go forward because it keeps the accountability of the defensive line.
We did see some pictures during the week after Ryan Pappenhausen fractured his kneecap in 10 places. A really horror injury for him. He had surgery during the week.
He's had a tough run, hasn't he, Paps?
Are you worrying about his longevity with so many injuries and head knocks, Bill? Because he's only a small man. But he plays like a much bigger man.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's having a bad run at the moment, and usually when you have a bad run, you have a bad run. So he's had a tough 12 months. Look, I don't know whether it's going to hurt his longevity, but sometimes injuries can save your longevity as well and allow you to stay in the game a little bit longer. But it's a tough sport. It is a brutal sport, and he's a tough player.
What about going forward? You're losing a lot of forwards next year, a lot of experience.
Yep.
Now, watching that game last night, was a lot. Well, a few of those blokes made injuries, but a lot of those inexperienced players just making injuries. You could feel the pressure get to them. How do you see who are the leaders in the forwards going forward?
Yeah, obviously that is a concern for Melbourne, losing Brandon Smith, the Bromwich brothers, and Felice Kafusi. I really like what Alec McDonald is doing at the moment. He's a young guy coming through. Tarek Sims is coming to the club at the end of the season. So, look, this is where Craig Bellamy comes to his. He owns this area of the game, doesn't he? He's got that ability. So it's going to be a challenge, there's no doubt about that.
Talk about challenge. The big challenge is for Cameron Munster is the ability to play on the back foot. With his forwards not going forward, he has to change the way he plays to really drive his forwards, but understand the feel for the game when he's just got to play conservative, but when they do get some momentum, to ramp it up. And look, the number 6 for Queensland back in the day, Wally Lewis, this was his biggest area, where on the back foot he would keep Queensland in the origin with his kicking game in control. So this is the next big challenge for Munster, playing on the back foot.
And with no Pappenhausen there, he's got to take a lot more of the responsibility, and I'm sure he feels that. I'm sure he feels that. He's got to get all over the field and be dangerous everywhere. He's got to play like a fullback. So that's the challenge for him. It's all in front of Melbourne, and it's not going to be easy. But it was still 6 weeks away. Well, 6 weeks ago, Melbourne were in a good position. So we're still 6 weeks away.
With no Pappenhausen, there were reports this week as well that the Melbourne Storm could be looking at Reece Walsh to solve their issues for the remainder of the season. What did you make of that news? Do you think that would be a good fit for the remainder?
I think it would be a fantastic fit for both parties. I think Melbourne could utilise a Reece Walsh. I think Reece would benefit from going down to Melbourne. The Warriors could even benefit from some cap space for next year. So I think it's a really really smart move. I think it's got to happen before August 1. But if that could happen, that would help. That would help everyone, in particularly Melbourne.
It was a bit sad watching him on the sideline. I thought watching the Canberra
Got 15
and then,
minutes.
you know, and they needed him at that time because you could just feel Canberra were just on a snowball and they had no attack left, the Warriors, and it was like, be good to sit there and watch him.
He's a good young kid and he's a great player. I've had a little bit to do with Reece and he's got a big future in the game.
Do you find is it for him sitting on the sidelines and playing only 15 minutes?
Well, the Warriors are thinking about their future. So they need to find people under pressure that can actually maybe come out and stand up and do what Reece Walsh does. It's a bit of irony that their fullback, who was playing also, is leaving next year.
Yes.
But maybe they're just seeing them as different circumstances. I don't know. But that's purely up to Stacey and the coaching staff. But, you know, going forward, if you're sitting way out of the 8, then I can understand that you're going to be using players that are going to be playing the following year instead of players that are leaving. It just makes sense, really.
But as an overall competition, don't you want to see the best players playing on the field? Exactly.
Well, I'm not in the Warriors coaching staff. You know, I'm not looking forward to. You know, they're thinking about next year. You know, they can't make the semi, so you know the benefit of them at the back end of the year is to try to build and find good players who can handle pressure and win games. At the moment, then they're not getting that, and they're not going to do it by having Reece Walsh there either. I don't assume so. They don't quite have another Reece Walsh there, which is a bit of a shame. But I would have loved to have seen him play in that last half of footy because they really needed it.